Hello and welcome into the Wealth Made Simple podcast. My name is Jay McFarland, and this is a show dedicated to sharing stories of consumers and financial professionals along with their experiences within our growing community. Now, in this series, we'll highlight financial professionals who are committed to providing financial literacy and empowerment for all. Now, through this podcast and our platform, we'll change the way consumers ask questions and get answers for their financial questions. Now, today I'm very excited to introduce you to J.R. Robinson. He's with Financial Planning Hawaii and Fee Only Planning Hawaii. How does somebody go from wanting to be a geologist to a financial planner? Well, you're going to love his story and get a real sense of his passion for helping people with their financial goals. All right, JR, it's such a pleasure to have you on the program today. I'd love to find out how you ended up in your current field. I mean, when you were a kid and somebody asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Did you say financial advisor or, what was your dream and how did you end up where you're at today?
I think like a lot of people in life, I sort of stumbled into what I do. And it actually it's become my absolute passion, but it's just sort of maybe absorbs too much of my life. But growing up, I did not say I wanted to be a financial planner. Actually, through high school, I had a really good high school earth science teacher, and he inspired me to want to become a geologist. So I went to college and I got a degree in geology, and I got a degree in economics too, just because it seemed interesting, and it was looked like if that would be my fallback for something I'd do if I had to do real business, instead of going out looking at rocks. So I had a degree in geology and was inspired to go out and become a geologist. And I got a job out of college as an environmental geologist in Boston. And it was great. The first summer, all my buddies were stuck in offices and stuffy suits, and I was outside doing geology, and it was great. And then winter came, and I was still outside freezing my butt off, and they were in nice warm offices, and it looked like their job was looking a little bit better. And then I also learned that I needed to go and get a PhD in geology if I was ever going to do really well in the field, and I was kind of burned out on that. And so I left that and was basically living on my parents' couch, which was not fashionable then. But and they that didn't last very long with them. So they actually put me in touch with a family friend who was the branch manager of an A.G. Edwards office, a brokerage firm back in the day. And he was kind enough to hire me and take me under his wing and give me an office job. And as I got into it, I realized that my background in econ was highly relevant. A lot of the stuff that I took in econ actually has formed the foundation for how I built my business today in terms of academic theory and things like that. My school that I went to, Williams College, was really good. It had a really great econ program. And I was surprised at how applicable it was to the real world. And so I got started there and kind of stumbled around for a while and met my girlfriend who at the time who was from Hawaii. After 7 years of working there, and she graduated from law school, it was either stay in Western Massachusetts or move to Honolulu, and moved to Honolulu. So, and it's got, like I said, I just kind of stumble into these things. But as I got into financial, I started out as basically a stockbroker at the time. And the more I was reading, the more I could see how you could help people by learning more about just products. And this was in the early 1990s, before financial planning was really much of a thing. And I started realizing if you learn all these tax rules, if you learn all these rules about retirement plans and estate planning, you can add huge value to people beyond just what the commodity is of selling people stocks and bonds and mutual funds. And the more I did that, the more passionate I became about it. And it's developed into the companies that I own today. And it really has become my life's work. I mean, I publish articles, I write articles all the time on it. I love finding ways to help make people's lives better beyond just the commodities that are investment products. So that's a long answer to a simple question. But
it's an amazing story. I can't tell you how many people in your industry have kind of stumbled into it, but then they have a real passion for it. I'm just curious. I have to know, do you still do anything with rocks, with geology at all?
It's fun. It's actually funny you should say that. I still love geology, and that was one of those things and I would say in our history course I took in college that were just actually sort of life changing. They help you see the world differently, And yeah, I love everywhere we go. I can tell if it was a glacial landscape, or just to understand how the landscape around you is formed, to understand how the forces that are, even things like climate change. We were learning about this stuff in the 1980s when I was in college. And it was just, it's fascinating. So then I have a son who's my oldest. I have 4 kids. My oldest son is graduating from Amherst College this year, and he's sort of following in my footsteps. He's an econ major, and he's going in a different direction than I did. But he took his first geology course at Amherst as a rising senior this year. He said it was the best course he ever took, and it sort of changes the way he looks. He says, when I go to national parks now, I understand how everything was formed. He says it's the best course he ever took in college. Yeah. So geology is still a passion in the Robinson family.
Boy, I love that. So you find you have a passion for finances, financial planning, those types of things, and you have a surprise educational background for it. What do you do then? How does that translate into actually helping other people or turning it into a business model? Tell me about that process. How did that happen?
Well, it was gradual. So as I was essentially self-educating in the mid-1990s, reading everything I could. It started as I wanted to learn about retirement plans, IRAs, 401k plans, and that sort of thing, because I was having a lot of small business owner clients. And so the more I read, the more I was reading there are all these arcane rules that if you know them, it actually adds a lot of value to people. Just understanding the rules between different types of plans, how you pick the right plan for the right business and all that. So I kept reading, and then estate planning was coming into vogue, and I had some clients who were attorneys, and we do estate planning seminars together. I was learning from that, and I started reading about that topic. So I said, okay, well, I think I'm going to enroll in the Certified Financial Planner education program. So I did that in the mid-1990s, and oddly, when I was going through it, I learned some. I learned a lot from that. I never sat for the exam because in the course of it, I found out that I'm also a zealot. Aside from being passionate about it, I'm a zealot. And I was really turned off by the emphasis on insurance sales that was in that program. So I never sat for the exam, but going through it, it stirred me to become proactive in idea sharing. So I started late 1990s, early 2000s, started writing papers and articles on my own, and started publishing them in academic journals and in the financial media. And that sort of take off. That became my next passion. Okay, this is how I get my own critical thinking done. So if I want to learn about a topic, I'll read lots of other papers and articles about it, and then I'll write it and put my own spin on my own critical thinking. And that I always think is my contribution, is that there is real critical thinking. There's different ideas than just, I don't always agree with what the mass financial planning guidance is, and here's why. You need to be able to support them with your own research and things like that. And so in the early 2000s, I started pairing with some colleagues or local people at the University of Hawaii who were professors at the business school there at the Scheidler College of Business. And we wrote a number of papers together. I still continue to write with one of my co-authors from that, published papers on different topics. Retirement income sustainability has been our most popular one. But so that's sort of, I have to kind of forget the question now, but that's sort of how my process has evolved. At this point in time, I published 10 papers in different journals and probably 100 different articles in all kinds of financial media. And that stirs me. That's what gets me going. I enjoy that as much as any element of the business.
Yeah, I can really tell that you have a passion for that. I mean, one of the questions I like to ask is what gets you up in the morning? What are you most excited for in the day? You've already kind of shared that. What else would you say to that question?
Well, I'll tell you, I actually make it tangible. There's even on our videos, I have a partner I've brought in to help me manage the business as I get older and as the business has gotten to the point where I need lots of help. I told her that the part that really juices me, that gets me out of bed every day, and I think I've even shared this on a couple of podcasts I've done in the past, is I view financial planning like a treasure hunt. And every new client that comes in, their situation, their experiences are different. And what we do is, as financial planners, and we do holistic, comprehensive financial plans. We look at every little element of their lives, not just the investment side, but everything, is that you go through all the documents that they give you. Their beneficiary forms, estate planning documents, employee benefits handbook, boring documents that nobody else likes to do. We go through them all and we look for treasure. By treasure, I mean we look for mistakes, oversights because people didn't know rules, or opportunities that can either save people money, avoid, catastrophic personal issues coming up. Like you had 4 kids, and after the first 2 were born, you updated the beneficiaries, but not on the next 2, or all just little things like that. But you catch mistakes like that. We always, always, always find significant mistakes that people make. And a lot of people come in and say, "I don't think you're going to find anything. It's pretty simple. We have everything." We always find stuff, and it's a treasure hunt. When you tell people that, "Oh my God, I never thought of that," it's gratifying, and that's really the reason for doing it. And the more you do, it's time consuming, but the more you do, it just never gets old.
It's amazing. I mean, you found a way to help people in a huge way in their lives, but you also have a way to support yourself. I mean, it's the best of both worlds, right?
Yep, totally stumbled into it too, and it just kind of happened. And it's been a great. I mean, and my wife always jokes that I don't really have any other skills other than like moving furniture, or taking out the trash. Financial planning and that, yeah. But all that. I'd rather than saying I'm old, I prefer to say I'm experienced. All that life experience that builds up. And sometimes, like, I'll have a conversation with people, prospective clients, or on shows like this one, people ask me, "What makes you more knowledgeable than a DIY person?" And we have lots of our clients are DIY, but I don't mean to say you can. We have one advantage. I always tell people it's not that it's what we do for a living. It's simply the value of. Not that we're more knowledgeable or more educated. I mean, there are lots of people who are really sophisticated on their own, because information is everywhere, right? Everything you want to know is on the internet. You can get that knowledge on your own. You don't have to go to school to get it. But what makes us better in terms of, being able to find things that other people won't is it's that compounded experience. Each individual consumer has only their own experience to deal with, and you won't necessarily gain information by going and reading things on the internet, because you only remember the things that are applicable to you. But we've dealt with hundreds and hundreds of different people, hundreds of different situations, and I remember them because I learned that rule from that experience with that client. And it's that cumulative experience that allows us to add value and find things that people wouldn't otherwise find. It's just like I said, 30 years of doing it, just accumulated, seeing person after person, and going in with that treasure hunt approach. And the other thing is that, and the challenging thing, especially as I get older, is that the rules change all the time too. When I went through the CFP program in the 1990s, within 5 years, almost all of the IRA and retirement rules, the estate planning rules, the tax laws had changed. So you have to stay current. The rules change all the time. You had the Secure Act in 2018, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. There's going to be new rules this year. I always say that's also part of what gives us job security, because the rules change all the time. Anyway, that's
the IRS helps you stay relevant, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then, you talk about the laws changing and those types of things. But man, the world has changed dramatically as well. And I'm curious how you keep up with it. I mean, you've got now cryptocurrencies, NFTs. You've got people who can open an app on their phone and with no fees just start trading stock. And, it's really changed a lot. How does that impact how you deal with your customers? And does it change how you educate them and how you deal with them?
That's a great question. And it's funny because change itself is not new to my profession. Our profession has changed. It's constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. And I always tell people that it is adapt or perish, as in the financial planning world. I mean, how we did financial planning 30 years ago looks nothing like what it does today. I mean, it was very much product centric, and even the CFP designation itself was originally created to help people sell insurance, to give credibility to insurance. And I'm not making that up. They actually say that. So it's so everything evolves over time. In many ways, what's going on today is they're evolutionarily wonderful. The fact that people have better access to information is helpful. And certainly technology is also expanding opportunities for people. I will say that it's not the way, the evolution of crypto and the evolution of sort of, I would say, the gamification of Wall Street. All of that hype that's going on right now isn't entirely new. You went through the 1990s. I went through the 1990s. And people are talking about like online trading, like Robinhood, like it's a big new invention. I remember when E-Trade and Ameritrade and where they were going to make brokerage firms obsolete back then because you could do online trading. That was a huge thing. And then the dot-com bubble burst in 2000, and lots of companies went away, and it changed the way online trading works. And so I'm seeing that happen now, and you're seeing, actually, you can sort of see it unfolding sort of the same way now with the way some of the robo advisors are not doing so well, and obviously Robinhood's not doing very well. Webull aren't doing. They're having their serious growing pains. So I've sort of seen the movie before. I think the technologies themselves are great. I think that if there's one big regret, I saw Warren Buffett was making a comment the other day about lamenting the gamification of Wall Street, and I do think there is a problem with that. I watched the HBO it was an HBO. It was a documentary on the GameStop debacle, or GameStop. It wasn't a debacle, just a unique event in financial history. And what was sad about it was you had all of these disillusioned young people who had lost money that were interviewed in it, and just said, and their comment was, the stock market is rigged. And I feel so badly for those people because they were taught to invest trying to outguess the market. They were taught that you could make money by short-term trading and trading in and out. And that's what Warren Buffett's point was, that the stock market isn't that complicated. It's made up of real companies that have real earnings. And if you're doing it properly, it doesn't work like that at all. It's, the secret isn't to become a better trader, to be outsmart everybody else in the world. It's very huge amounts of academic research show it's very hard even for professional money managers to beat the overall market. But there are ways that it's unfortunate that it's got away from investment education to people thinking that trading is how you make money. And I feel badly for those people. They may never go back to the stock market again, when really that's how stocks and real estate are great ways for people to build wealth over the long run. So, the things are always changing. Some parts of history repeat, but
Right.
Overall, access to information is wonderful.
Yeah. Or you can learn just enough to be dangerous, right? and we've seen a lot of that. Some people may, got Robinhood, made a few trades, made some money, and they're like, this is easy, and then went all in. And then I've also seen where they don't understand the tax ramifications. So things like wash sales and those kind of things. You can get yourself into real trouble nowadays if you don't know the tax laws and those kind of things.
Yeah. And people always ask me, what do you think of, should I buy Bitcoin or should I buy crypto? And I'll tell you, I'm very careful about how I respond to that. I always say, I'm not going to be the guy who keeps you from being rich by telling you no. So if you want to speculate on it, you can. The problem is, my advice to you on that is worthless, because there isn't really there's no fundamental analysis that anyone can buy. I mean, you just kind of hope it goes up and hope it becomes any of these become alternatives to real currency that over the time you're getting in on the foundation. I never want to be the guy who says don't buy Apple when it was 2003. I never did. It's like, you can buy it. I'm not going to. My job isn't to get you rich. My job is to not screw up with your money. So if you want to do things like, you can. I've seen people get rich by buying stocks or by buying crypto in 2015 or Tesla in 2015. I'm not the guy. But it's not my job to advise you on that stuff. So if anybody wants to do that, go ahead. I mean, do a little bit, and I wouldn't put all my savings in it, but I've got no objection to things like that. At the same time, sometimes people will say, "Well, how come you're not all in on this stuff?" I'm like, you know what? There's a reason I'm not all in, and I'll give you a good example. If you're all in on this, were you also all in on cannabis when that was a hot thing and everybody had to own that too? No, I view it the same way. It's just, I've seen the movie over and over again. It's just a slightly different plot, but the movie repeats. I saw that with .com stocks in the 1990s. It happens all the time. This is the hot topic right now, and people may make a lot of money on it. It's just not investing. It's
Right.
I'm not going to say it's gambling. It's you. If you have a thesis for why this is going to be, everyone should own it 20 years from now, great, get rich on it. But it's not financial planning.
Very good. So how do you define success for one of your customers? Like what is a perfect example of how you look at somebody and you're like, you can feel good that they were involved with you and this happened. What does that picture look like?
Well, a successful financial planning relationship is one in which the client, and it's all individual clients. We don't really do any corporations, but it's, mom and pop, maybe their kids. We try to be multi-generational, try to include everybody if we can. But success is a relationship where they're willing to share with us all of their information and help us. We give every client an online platform where they can link all of their accounts at all their institutions, upload all of their documents from tax returns, estate planning documents, everything. We go through it, and then we highlight all the opportunities for them to, if you can save somebody $50,000 in taxes just by showing them rules they didn't know anything about, that's every bit as good as making them money on investment returns. So we look at the whole thing, but our job is, we always tell people, our job isn't to get you rich quickly, but it's to catch all the mistakes and opportunities to make things as efficient as possible, and to point out mistakes that you made that you weren't aware of because you didn't know the rules or you just didn't know all of that. So what the successful relationship is at the end of that process, when we've delivered in a report all the information we gathered and all the things we found, and then the client says, "Wow, I never knew about this stuff, and this is what we hired you for. You said you were a financial planner and you were doing comprehensive. This is what we asked for and more." And that's what I want. I want people to say that. I want to say this is better than what I thought it was going to be. And fortunately, we've been doing it so long. I find some mistakes on everything we do. So it's
that's that treasure hunt again, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I love the emphasis on taxes that people don't understand. It's so much easier to save money and put it right to the bottom line than it is to find ways to get your money to grow. That's Absolutely. The fastest, easiest way to do it.
It's guaranteed.
That's right. That's exactly
There's no risk
right.
in that.
Yeah. So target client, do you have a target, or is it just kind of run the spectrum of age and background and experience?
Well, for the most part of my career, we targeted what was called the mid-market affluent segment, because for most of my career, the business model we had developed was comprehensive financial planning, based on our doing portfolio management included as part of that. So it's asset-based compensation. We have a tiered structure in which we start at 0.65% per year, and it declines to 30 basis points at $5 million. We don't charge anything above $5 million. That was our model. So it was a perfect fit for mid-market affluent, which is designed with anyone from, say, $500,000 to $10 million in assets. That was our target market. But more recently, we've evolved beyond that, because we don't want to have people who want financial planning but don't have assets for us to manage. They may either not have a lot of assets and they're just starting out, or they have assets that are in 401k plans and real estate. They want financial planning. There's nothing for us to manage, so we can't get paid for this advice. So we set up a separate company, Fee Only Planning Hawaii, where we do comprehensive financial planning. But we do that for a flat fee that will include investment guidance, but it's not coupled to portfolio management. We don't manage their investments. We just do the whole comprehensive financial plan, and present that to them. And so we give people that choice of models. And so people are like, what's your asset minimum? We don't have one. If you don't have to have any assets, if you want comprehensive financial planning, we'll just do it for a flat fee. There's no conflicts of interest in terms of product sales or anything like that. We'll tell you what you do. It's up to you to implement it, but that's how it works. And we're getting calls on that almost every day, as much as we can handle. And it's so and I think that's probably the fastest growing segment is that fee only segment of financial planning. But there's a wide range. Some people call fee only planning, incorporate asset-based planning into it. I like to have them separate. For us, there are reasons why asset-based planning sometimes makes sense, particularly tax-wise. There's some advantages of that. And so a lot of people don't want to manage their own investments. So that's still the dominant model in our business. And it basically scales to a flat fee at a certain level, asset level. But giving people that choice of either you want the ongoing portfolio management mixed or with comprehensive financial planning, or you just want the financial plan and you manage the investments on your own separately, that covers the full spectrum. But it's all for individual consumers. Asset size no longer matters. It's just who wants real comprehensive financial
Who's
planning
looking?
guidance.
Yeah, yeah. Let me ask you this: just kind of best advice for somebody just starting out. Just they see all these options, crypto and Robinhood and all these things. What direction would you point them?
Um,
Call you?
I guess.
Is that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for self-educating up to
Hmm.
a certain point, but I mean, I would encourage people to be careful about that gamification concept, the concept that you can make money quickly and get rich quickly. I mean, that seems to be the driving development, the notion that you can outguess the markets and everybody wants to be the next rock star in their portfolio. Everybody, and it's I to just become educated on your own. I mean, it's the most prevalent investments in the portfolios we manage are just what people like Warren Buffett are always talking about: super low cost index funds and ETFs. And that was what I learned in college. And when I was a senior in college, my economics seminar was on the stock market. It was 1987, the fall of 1987, where we saw the stock market drop 25% in one day. So it was a fascinating time to be there. But one of the books that we had to read for that seminar was A Random Walk Down Wall Street by Burton Malkiel, who was a Princeton professor. That book is still, decades later, still a New York Times bestseller. And it talks about just how difficult it is for anyone, professional or regular consumers, to outperform the stock market. And if I would give one piece of advice to anybody starting out, if you want one book to read, just read that one book. It's written for laymen. It's actually entertaining. It's updated all the time. But those concepts that I was taught in econ in the 1980s still apply today. The efficient market hypothesis, modern portfolio theory, random walk theory. Those are mathematically complicated, but to the layman, they can be explained in simple terms of basically trying to time your exits in and out of the market is very difficult to do. So I would encourage people to start with that basic concept rather than the lure of easy money.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people do want to contact you and use your services, what is the best way for them to do that?
We're super easy to find. I mean, if you search for a fee-only financial planner in Hawaii, I've one of the few things I've done smart in my life. My company's called Financial Planning Hawaii and Fee Only Planning Hawaii. When you search for us, I've published and written enough that we're easy to find.
Yeah, I love that. A couple of other questions. These are just kind of rapid fire. Don't necessarily have to do with your profession. What is one of your hobbies outside of your professional life?
Multiple hobbies. Actually, my parents were antique dealers. So I grew up, I'm trying to curb that, actually get too addicted to collecting stuff. And we're experiential world. So antiques and art, Hawaiiana in particular, or Americana are passions of mine. I write constantly. I'm always writing, primarily on investment stuff because that's still what I'm doing, but I like to write on anything. And so short stories, anything like that. I also play lacrosse, even though I'm an old man. I play lacrosse and basketball. Just to kind of stay healthy. One of my sons is into MMA, so we do a little bit of that. But
wow. Now, this last question, this one's a big one. Best piece of advice that you have ever received, personal or business? I know I'm putting you on the spot with that one.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just put it in the context of planning. Save as much as you can as early as you can.
Simple.
Simple, super simple, super basic.
Yeah, that kind of short-term pain, long-term gain. I feel like, especially with today's youth, it's kind of the opposite. They have to start out owning a home. They have to furnish that home. They have to start out, with all of these things. And I feel like they're skipping a lot of important steps that will help them down the road.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a financial plan that we just completed yesterday for a couple it was very unusual. They're in their early 40s. And they were looking to stop working early and pursue their dream job, stop being employees and just pursue their dream job of opening up a restaurant or a cafe or something. And they have been extraordinarily diligent savers since the time they were in their 20s. And they're worried about, saving for retirement. And this is very rare that it happens. I say, you can follow your passion. And as long as you've got enough to maintain your standard of living, you don't actually need to save for retirement anymore. They've got $500,000 saved in retirement accounts at age 40.
Mm.
They're going to be good, even if so they don't have to worry about continue. If you can afford to continue to save, there's tax incentives to save if their business is doing well, and all of that. But that objective, between that and they both actually have worked long enough for their jobs to have pensions when they retire. The only reason to keep working is to fill in their 35 years of Social Security earnings for eventually. But setting aside money, they've done such a good job at an early age that they'll be okay. But that's rare. Most people use the average 401k balance when you're 50 is less than $100,000. Crazy numbers like that. So
they're also not going to experience the drama of market changes, of recessions, of all of those types of things. They've shored themselves up against those types of things.
Yeah, that they have time to whatever the market goes down, they'll ride it out as long as they're invested efficiently, which they are. But but that's usually the opposite of what we see. People don't start saving until they wake up and say, "Oh my God, I'm 45, I've got nothing saved. Now I got to crank it up." And it's a lot harder that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great advice, JR. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you. I love your passion for helping people. I love that you found your passion and kind of your path to get there. It's just such a great story.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun for me too. Like I said, you're really good at your job. I appreciate it very much. And anytime you want to do it again, I'm always game.
Fantastic. Once again, I want to thank J.R. Robinson for sharing with us his story and his passion. I know that really comes through, and we're excited for people to hear about him and his journey so far. Once again, my name is Jay McFarland, and this is another edition of Wealth Made Simple podcast.